Well, hey guys, it's Darwin here with a full long-term review of an update to a shoe that last year I called the Ultra Lone Peak Killer, the Topo Pursuit 2. Last year, after getting completely fed up with Ultra's durability issues, a shoe brand that I had used for really like 13,000 miles of long distance hiking, I finally decided to switch to something new. After going through so many versions of the Lone Peak, the Temp, and the Olympus, I got absolutely tired of them just falling apart and not lasting as many miles, so I ended up picking up a pair of the Topo Pursuits after getting a ton of recommendations because of how similar they were to the Ultra Lone Peak. Well, after putting them through absolute hell last year, I fell in love with these shoes, and I ended up doing a review. Well, right after that review came out and I talked about how much I loved this shoe and I was never going back to Ultra, it seemed like Topo actually had discontinued this shoe. I personally was looking everywhere for new pairs. I ended up finding one, and then after that, you could not get them on any website. Well, not too long after I put out my video, Topo actually reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to check out a new updated version of the Pursuit that they were gonna be putting out at the beginning of the year, and I took them up on their offer. So ever since they sent these to me in January, I have put about 400 miles of long distance section hikes, a ton of trail running and fast packing, an entire hike through the Himalayas to the climb of Island Peak, and I just got back from Europe doing another full Tour de Mont Blanc in these. So I feel like I put enough miles on them to give my 2 cents and give my opinion if this shoe is still great, or did they ruin it by redesigning it? Shoe companies are absolutely notorious for updating a shoe that you really love and completely changing everything to where it's basically a completely different shoe. I'm looking at you, Ultra. So it ends up being kind of a gamble when you pick up that new version. Is it going to work for me or not? So I'm always super nervous when getting a new version of the shoe. And before we jump into it, even though Topo sent these to me for free, I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. They didn't pay me for this review, and they didn't even ask me to do this review. These are all my own thoughts after hiking 400 miles. And before we jump into what I like and what I don't like, let's go over the specs. The Pursuit 2 is a zero-drop trail runner with an extra wide toe box, just like the Ultras. It has a 28mm stack height and features what Topo calls their zip foam midsole. The outsole features the same super grippy, well-lugged Vibram Mega Grip rubber as the last version. Just like the Pursuit 1, it has no rock plate and it is Trail Gator compatible with their own proprietary gator. I still wear a size 12 in men's, just like the last version, and on my scale, they come in just a little bit lighter at 11 ounces per shoe. All right, so first off, what do I like about the new updated Pursuit 2? Actually, what are some of those updates? Well, if you look at the Pursuit 1 versus the Pursuit 2, the main difference is gonna be the upper. So they basically left the bottom of the shoe completely alone. Between the Pursuit 2 and the Pursuit 1, the midsole and the outsole are exactly the same. Where they really made those changes was in that upper. They changed to a different mesh, so it feels a little bit, I don't know, a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit softer. They changed a little bit of the lamination on the toe bumper, and they changed the heel cup slightly. So, getting to that thing that they didn't change, that's still what I absolutely love about the Pursuit. It's that midsole. It's that zip foam midsole. What I fell in love with the last version was the fact that after 400 miles, this does not squish out and what I call pancake out. A problem that I've had with a ton of Ultra shoes in the past, especially the Lone Peak, is after about 200 miles, this foam right here starts to squish, and then every time that I strike the ground with my foot, I can feel every single rock, especially in the heel. Well, after 400 miles, these still have held up great. As you can see, they haven't squished out at all. They don't have those little squishy lines on it. You probably know what I'm talking about. And they still rebound phenomenal. The ride still feels just as great as they did when I pulled them out of the box back in January. So I absolutely love that. And then there is the outsole. That Vibram Mega Grip outsole rubber and the lugs are phenomenal. Over the last 400 miles, I've hiked and ran and done a bunch of stuff on a ton of different environments. When I was in Nepal and over in Europe doing the Tour de Mont Blanc, I was hiking on a lot of very rocky scree fields and boulder fields. And these always had good grip even when the rock was wet. So I absolutely love that outsole. And then, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I love the fit of this shoe. Now, I'll talk about it a little bit in my dislikes, but the fit is slightly wider in the toe box in the version 2 versus the version 1, which you think that's something that I would really love, but I'll get into why I kind of wish they wouldn't have done that. And then I guess the last thing that I really love about the shoe, aside from that durability on the midsole and the outsole, is actually the stock insoles that they put in the shoe. Now, I'm somebody that uses a custom insole because of my arch, but out of all these stock insoles that I've seen in any shoe, this is probably the nicest stock insole. They make it out of a high rebound foam, and as you can see, all these little kind of bumps on the bottom, it's a nice, thick, cushy insole. This is something that you would buy on the side and then put it in the shoe. If I wasn't using a custom insole, this would be perfect. I've actually done a couple of runs in these, and they're very comfortable. So if you're somebody that uses the insole right out of the box, you're probably going to love these. Again, it's kind of a little thing, but I was really impressed with the stock insole that they did add to the shoe. And now the dislikes. What do I not like about those updates? Well, again, like I said, they left the bottom of the shoe alone, which is what's really important to me, but they did update that mesh. And as far as putting about 300 to 400 miles on these and about 400 miles on these, the mesh has not held up as great as the first version. When you look at them, you can definitely see the difference in the mesh. The older version had kind of a tighter weave. It's a little bit stiffer, where this new stuff is a little softer and a little bit of a looser weave. So I'm sure that they breathe better in the long run, but I've noticed that they don't hold up as well. Aside from getting a bunch of holes in it already, kind of up here, I've also started separating the mesh from the midsole, which is a major problem. So that upper is just not as durable as the original upper. And because they did change that mesh, like I said, usually with a shoe, the toe box gets tighter because when they change that mesh, they usually change the bumper plate, all this lamination, like all these little plastic lamination pieces here. It actually got a little bit wider. And where you think that I would love that, because I'll take as wide a toe box as I can get, what I've noticed is with the original version, my foot kind of set perfectly in the center of the shoe, and I had plenty of room on this side and plenty of room on that side. With this version, because they got a little wider, I've noticed that my toes tend to kind of push towards my pinky toe, giving myself a lot more width on this side. So my foot seems to want to shift this way for some reason. And for me, that's a big deal because my pinky toe in the past has always rubbed up against the mesh because I have such a large splay, and I start getting this, which is a little bitty hole right where my sock and my pinky toe rub the outside of the shoe, and that started doing it with these as well. The original version, not at all. I have no holes anywhere around where my pinky toe was, or really anywhere else in the shoe. There was never any delamination. The mesh never tore on these. They were absolutely perfect. With these, because they did change that mesh, because they did change that fit slightly in the toe box, I've noticed they're not holding up as well. And again, that it ripping away from the sole like that is a pretty big issue for me. And then they also changed the heel cup. So for me, this isn't as big of an issue because I have a pretty big heel, but unlike, again, most shoe companies, when they change the heel cup, they tend to go tighter. They actually went wider. Now, I'm gonna see if you can see this, but if you look at the heel cups, you can see this is the old version, this is the new version. It's slightly wider and slightly bigger. Now for me, this wasn't an issue. I didn't get any heel slippage and it didn't bother me at all. But if you're someone that has a daintier heel, I could see where this would actually be a problem. And then there is this stupid proprietary gaiter system. Again, just like the last version, I hate when companies put something on their product that is proprietary, meaning that this was designed to only use their gaiter. They actually sent me a pair of gaiters with these, and to be honest, I haven't used them at all. If I was gonna use a pair of gaiters, I would use my old trusty standby Dirty Girl gaiters that have a Velcro piece. What was always great about the Ultras is Ultra has a universal Velcro piece, so you can basically use any gaiter that uses Velcro, which as far as I know is most running gaiters out on the market. Now the one thing they did change is they gave it more space. So I complained with the last version how you can see on this little plate here, they got all this lettering and stuff. It would be really hard to alter it and super glue a piece of Velcro on here. With the new one, they actually put the lettering in a different place. So if I wanted to, I could super glue a piece of Velcro on there, but still, it's not something I want to do. I wish it just had a universal gaiter system because it's convenient to use, and I don't want to go super gluing Velcro and stuff like that. It's wild actually that they gave it some space. I'm sure it wasn't because of my review, but it is interesting that they actually did that. But another thing that I can't stand, companies, stop doing proprietary things to your products. It's just annoying. And then the last thing that I can complain about is basically the same thing that I complained about in my last review, which was the price. So the original pair of Pursuits cost $140, which in the grand scheme of things is a pretty expensive basic trail runner. One that is just a 28 millimeter, that's not super fancy, doesn't have a ton of foam and stack height and stuff like that. But again, if I can get double the amount of life out of these than a pair of Ultras, to me that's worth it. But with the new version, they actually raised the price even more, and they are now $145. Now, $5 isn't a big thing to bitch about, and it's not gonna stop me from buying the shoe, because again, I think that if I can get the durability to last on that sole for double the amount of time of what a pair of Ultras would last, that's worth the money to me. So overall, what are my final thoughts on the Topo Pursuit 2? Would I still recommend it? Do I still think it's a perfect shoe? Do I think it's the Ultra Lone Peak killer? And do I think they ruined it? Well, yes, no, and yes, in no particular order. So for me, I think the shoe is still a phenomenal shoe. Again, the biggest thing in durability, the way I look at a shoe is always gonna be in that sole. It's gonna be in the midsole, it's gonna be in the outsole. That is where it matters to me. With the upper falling apart faster, it's not as big of a deal to me because it's just something that's gonna happen. When you're dealing with ultralight fabric like these lightweight breathable meshes, it's bound to happen, especially when you're hiking hundreds and hundreds of miles on these in different environments. You know, they were designed to be trail runners, not through hiking shoes, not long distance hiking shoes. So that's to be expected. But yes, I do still think they are the Ultra Lone Peak killer. I think that it is a phenomenal replacement, and I personally will never go back to buying another pair of Ultras, and it all comes down to the durability of that midsole. And do I think they ruined them? Not really. I do wish, Topo, if you're watching this, I wish that you would change back to the old mesh because, I mean, after 400 miles on these, you can see there's not a single hole in that upper, where in these, after 400 miles, I've ripped that, I have a hole here, I have a hole there. They have started to fall apart on that upper. But going forward, will I buy another pair of these? Will I buy another pair of the twos? Well, if I didn't already have a brand new pair of the Topo Pursuit 1s sitting on my shelf that I picked up last year, yeah, I'd buy another pair of these for sure. And I mean, I'll keep using these. They still have a ton of life left in them as far as the midsole and the outsole goes. So I will still continue to hike in these, but for right now, I'm probably gonna wait to buy a new pair until I run through my Pursuit 1s. And I would definitely still highly recommend these to anybody that's looking to switch from Ultras or any other running shoe. If you're looking for that wide toe box, that zero drop, that 28 millimeter stack height, these are phenomenal for trail running and long distance hiking. So, have you checked out the Topo Pursuit 2 yet? Are you still rocking the Pursuit 1? Have you tried both and have you seen a difference in them? Or what other shoe are you currently rocking on the trail and what's your favorite? Leave it down below and let me know your thoughts. Guys, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourselves. I hope you're taking care of each other. I love you, and as always, thanks for watching.